Alex Grinch addressed the media for the first time since the Cotton Bowl, and I know that you talked about his remarks on your Sunday show. For people who missed the Sunday show, what was your general reaction to what Grinch had to say?
Yeah, he basically is saying that there's no magic to this, and I think a lot of people, we had every right to be disappointed, right? Saying that we don't have the right guys in place. It's not like we were playing, Georgia, and we were playing Ohio State's offense, right? They weren't tearing us up. We played some pretty good offenses in general, but it wasn't like the rest of the Pac-12 had superior talent to what we had on the field. And so the numbers that we were giving up were a bit disappointing. The lack of fundamentals, the lack of tackling, et cetera, that was also very disappointing to see. I mean, literally at the end of that Cotton Bowl, there was only everything had to go just wrong, for USC, or just right for them to win that game. If they make them drive down that, on that one, they get a 35-yard kickoff return, then they get a 65-yard pass, right? They score, and then we get the safety, and then they march down the field again and score on us. And we had fourth down how many times? Literally, we had so many chances to end that game, and USC didn't do it. That was all on the defense and disappointing. Although we say that, we get one first down. That's all another conversation. But the issue I had with with his comments prior to this year were like, I was expecting a lot more, because again, we do have good talent, not great, but good talent. What he's saying basically is that they're not installing a new defense, right? You expect that. I know we all think there's quick fixes in football now because we have the transfer portal, we have a lot of things in place, but it still takes time for guys to pick up a defense and a scheme. In the beginning, I remember they're talking about how the run fits were all wrong. That's why they're breaking these big runs, etc. Seemed like they got that under control, but then it started falling apart. There's two things to that. One, later in the season, even though guys were out there playing, they were playing hurt and banged up, right? It's a long season. USC played 14 games last year. And so that's a lot of wear and tear on a lot of guys getting a lot of reps up front. So there were guys playing, injured and hurt throughout the season. So that's an issue. Now, hopefully a little more depth on the defensive line. That's going to be great. But Grinch's big point is the guys know the system now. Sure, we have some newcomers coming in, but even the guys like Damani Jackson and Zion Branch, those guys aren't exactly new. They got to sit on the sidelines. They got to watch all that stuff going on. So they got all those mental reps going. So they should be ready for this year. And then these guys now it's not just the coaches, but the players, the veterans on the team, they can help to install the defense for the young guys coming on. So what he's saying is they're a step ahead. They're moving guys around, and they can really look at other things. And then also, I think Riley talked about the fact that same thing. This time last year, they were trying to turn the culture around. They're trying to get a winning, momentum going on in the program. Now they can really work on the plays, get everything right, doing the fundamental drills. So I think that was what I took away from what they said last week.
Yeah, one of the things that just makes me a little bit worried, and I'm sure a lot of other USC fans feel the same way, Tim, is that, and like what you said, like it all makes sense. It's fundamentally accurate. It's logical. It's reasonable that, to a certain extent, you always pretty much always need a second year under a coaching staff to more fully absorb what's going on. Like this, Urban Meyer didn't succeed in year one at Florida, right? Like he needed that transition year in 2005 to get settled. Like even the very best coaches are going to need at least 1 year to get settled, usually. Like unless they're inheriting a Lamborghini or a Ferrari.
Like Ron Zook.
USC didn't have that.
Meyer did, yeah. So some guys walk into a championships roster already. Ron Zook had a pretty darn good thing going, right? And then when Meyer took over, then it was already set to go. But yeah, I agree with you.
Yeah, so even the best coaches need a year, and so to that extent, the year 2 to year 1 difference, that's a salient point. But my concern, I know a lot of USC fans share this, and injuries played a part, but you can only put so much at the feet of injuries. That USC actually regressed as the season went along. That USC, had really good defensive games in week 4 against Oregon State and week 6 against Washington State. And then you saw things get progressively worse. And the Utah game in October in Salt Lake City, there was a week off after that game. And so, like, if the game against Arizona coming after the break, the off week, if that game in particular had given a solid performance, I would then be able to look at what happened in November and then in early December and say, injuries caught up with the team, guys weren't fully healthy coming back. But I think about that Arizona game, and I know Arizona made a lot of great catches in that game, and it'll be great to have Dorian Singer on our team this year, not having him on the other side. But even then, the fact that USC was just so bad on defense in that Arizona game after a week off, like that told me that, okay, if things are being taught, if things are being ingrained and incorporated, if guys are soaking up knowledge and this thing is taking, like guys are getting it, that game in particular against Arizona should have been better. Like I could even allow for a sliding scale and a grading on a gentle curve against Cal because the attrition accumulated as the season continued, and also when you're playing Cal and Colorado before that finishing kick of UCLA Notre Dame, natural letdown spot. Like you're not going to have a full emotional fuel tank for those Cal and Colorado games because you're thinking about UCLA and Notre Dame, and you're not going to play every game with the same level of intensity. But the Arizona game, again, after an off week, let's make a statement. We were embarrassed in Salt Lake City. I really look at that game as a concerning example heading into this season of, does Alex Grinch know how to get guys to steadily improve, carry a certain level of performance, carry a certain standard forward as a season goes along? Like that is a point of concern I have, and it really goes against the idea that, well, in year 2, guys are going to get it, and they're going to understand the things that they didn't get in year 1. I'm not saying like you're wrong. I'm not saying that that Riley or Grinch are full of it when they talk about year 1 to year 2, because again, that is a real thing. It's a natural
big leap.
thing.
It's real. Yep.
Yeah, it is real. It is real. But can Grinch, in terms of the day-to-day, in terms of the week-to-week, can he get more retention, and can he adjust to bad days one weekend? And there are going to be a few, like they're going to happen. Hopefully the offense is going to bail the defense out, just as was the case most of the time in 2022. Like when a bad game happens, such as the Salt Lake City game, the game against Utah in mid-October, what's USC's response going to be the next week? And so that is the kind of thing that is going to still be fresh in my mind when we go into October and the meat of the schedule this season.